Make sure for additional protection, you get a thong. It's very important. Saved my own life couple of times. Love it. Extremely comfortable. Good morning, folks. It's your host Dipanshu Lakman, and today we have a very, 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 very special guest with us, Mr. Salman. As a hobby, he does investment banking, but this is not what we are here today. He is a motorcycle enthusiast. So all of you, the two-wheel crazy riders, this is the podcast for you. We're going to talk everything about motorcycle, from the engine, from the anatomy, from how to ride, how to not ride, what is the death wobble, so on and so forth. So please pay careful attention, and for your reference, we also have a lot of PowerPoint presentations prepared for you. Okay, Salman, what an absolute pleasure to have you here.
Thanks for having me, man.
Let's talk motorcycles.
Let's do it.
All right.
Finally.
Yeah. So just a little bit background. Salman has been riding for 10 plus years, and his first motorcycle was R15. This is a crazy, crazy Indian motorcycle, and then it was RC390, 319cc, and then it was R6, 600cc, and not just that. And then later he got an R1000, absolute Japanese piss missile, and not just that. And then he got an MV Augusta, which is a beautiful, beautiful Italian bike. And then he also have a GSX 1000 R. R basically in motorcycling world means it goes fast. Basically that. Salman, how are you feeling today, man?
Feeling great.
All right.
Yeah.
Awesome. So I see we have a prototype here. What motorcycle is that anyways?
So this is a Yamaha R1.
Mm-hmm.
So this is, let's say, one of the top most liter bikes in the category.
Right. What is a liter bike?
So it's a 1000cc. It's called liter, yeah.
Oh, so it's engine capacity.
It's engine capacity.
Right. Is it the same thing as horsepower? Like, what's the difference between like horsepower and
So cc or the capacity is how much volume the engine has, yeah. And
Yeah.
the horsepower is the output it's producing. So for
Right.
example, this motorcycle makes 200, something like 205, 210 horsepower.
Right.
And so yeah, that's horsepower for you, yeah.
That's more than some cars, I
Yeah.
think.
Yeah.
Holy.
And what's interesting about, let's say, motorcycles is not only about power and speed, it's about power to weight ratio.
Okay.
So for example, this motorcycle weighs around 200 kilos, even
Okay.
less actually, and it makes around 200 horsepower. So you have almost a 1-to-1 power to weight ratio, which is, in a car world, you would have to spend millions to get that power to weight ratio.
Oh my. Okay.
So that's why when you accelerate,
Yeah.
you are like you're accelerating into a different dimension,
Oh, I'm pretty sure of that. And when was this origin of a sports bike? When did these things start to get absolutely serious? Because I think the origin of motorcycles could be in which century, if you are aware, about maybe
1800s. Yeah.
1800s, and those were like those straight rod motorcycles looking like a sort of Harley, but not
Yeah,
there
I mean,
yet.
1800s, they were really rudimentary motorcycles, like barely, an engine, a chassis.
Yeah,
And as actually, I think after 1900s,
yeah,
they started becoming like, more popular, and they started becoming more advanced. I mean, in the sense of getting better from the past generations.
right.
And
So
yeah.
you always have been a sports bike rider,
Yeah.
right? And from it looks absolutely like it's designed for speed, but
Mhm.
why haven't you tried like any other type of motorcycle?
In fact, I have tried. Actually, I've tried almost every category of motorcycle.
Okay.
So basically, apart from sports bikes, I'm really into off-roading and off-road motorcycles.
Right.
So this is something which allows me to learn in a different environment,
Yeah.
to gain more new skills. For
Right.
example, grip levels, because on off-road you have very less grip.
Yeah.
So you are actually understanding how it's like to lose grip.
Yeah.
And when you apply this on the road, on the track, on
Mhm.
a sports bike, let's say, you understand the feeling of sliding.
Uh-huh.
You can actually learn how to control it in a way.
Right. So more so in the car world, people are they see a lot of videos about drifting, about this scale, and F1 is quite a big thing going on. So, but in motorcycles, people assume that okay, there's a two-wheel thing and you ride it on the road, but they don't know how many branches it
Yeah.
just sprouts out in.
Yeah.
And turns out there are more branches of motorcycles than there ever could be of a four-wheel drive. You know,
More or less, yeah.
more or less. So, although in the beginning of this podcast we started branching out in different things, but let's make it more structured. And for your references, as I told you, we have a PowerPoint presentation. We're going to show you how many different types of motorcycles are there, and maybe if you're trying to get into motorcycling, which one might be the best for you. So, Salman, let's talk about the types of motorcycles first. So you see, for a beginner, all of them are motorcycles. But we have an expert here, so he's going to tell us, Salman, what are these creatures?
Okay, so this basically, we can start off with naked bike. So, well, naked bikes are a variation of sports bike.
Okay.
So, like in the 90s, I believe, or like early 2000s, people were, when they crash their sports bikes, you have all the fairings, yeah. So
Yeah.
when you crash these, you break all of them.
So basically, you break all the
Plastic
the-
elements and
Right,
everything, yeah.
all right, I
So
see.
when they were repairing it,
Yeah.
the fairings actually they cost a lot of money. The OEM ones, the factory ones, they cost
Yeah.
a lot of money. So what they were doing after they crashed it, they were just removing all the plastics. They were putting on like a little bit raised handlebars, and they were calling it a naked bike.
A naked
and
bike.
they started doing that, and then manufacturers they saw a potential gap in the market.
Right.
So they were like, okay, why don't we just start making naked bikes from the factory?
So Triumph was the first one to do it, I guess.
Triumph Street Triple,
Yeah.
Ducati Street Fighter,
Yeah.
they have been making it from the start.
Right.
So
So that is a naked bike, which
Yeah.
is basically a sports
sports
bike, but okay, you guessed it. It's naked.
yeah,
It's
Exactly.
it's stripped off.
yeah.
And then we move on to the off-roaders.
Yeah. So this is
Yeah.
a motocross bike and an enduro bike, let's say. So these are designed for basically going off-road and going really fast at it and doing crazy jumps and stuff. So
Okay.
there is a separate series of this kind of racing, so off-road motocross racing. So they are, as you see, they are very tall.
Yeah.
They have a huge suspension travel, so that when you do jumps,
Yeah.
you land and you are still supported by the suspension.
Right.
If you do a jump on the naked bike, when you land, you're basically screwed. So that's
either
why
you're screwed or motorcyclist or you
Yeah.
both are screwed.
Yeah.
So off-road, the ergonomics of
Yeah.
this motorcycle is like you're not super. Are they comfortable?
they are to a point. If you go really fast on the highway, they are not comfortable. They're
Yeah.
not designed for that. Also, the
Okay.
tires they are a little bit different.
Yeah.
You cannot really ride on the streets so comfortably. Although you can, but it doesn't work so well.
So this is definitely not a beginner bike.
No, I mean you can technically get a small like a 100cc.
Yeah, 125 cc just to get your hand on it,
Yeah,
and then get a bit more powerful.
yeah,
but it doesn't need much power.
they don't need much engine capacity. The cc is like if you even get a professional motocross bike, they're 450 cc, 500 cc maximum, more or less,
Okay.
because they don't need a lot of horsepower.
Exactly.
They need torque. Even though on off-road you have to like be really smooth with the power. So it's
All right,
Yeah.
all right, okay, that is off-road for you. And then we move on to choppers.
yeah.
Okay, so choppers are those big boys' toys, those people who are calling each other brothers. You know, the Harley gang. These are the choppers. You sit down on it and you just the shit on sports bikers, basically. Those are the choppers. And what's so special about choppers, Salman? Like, what are those things?
Well, choppers are, I think Americans, they started it with all the Harley Indians and everything. So it's just a lifestyle, I mean, okay, the riding style is completely different. You sit much lower from the back. You don't have much rear suspension comfort. But they are really good for like long distance touring. And it became a lifestyle, especially in the America.
Yeah.
And
So it's
yeah.
like a culture thing that you do it. And
Yeah.
there is a lot more torque, right?
Yeah, so the thing is they have huge engines,
Yeah.
like 1,000, more than 1,000, like 2,000 cc even.
Mm-hmm.
They have a lot of torque, and they don't like to rev really high, but they have low end torque. So it's really easy to overtake on the streets. It's really easy to ride. So
Right. But what's the basic difference between horsepower and torque? Like, how would you explain it to a newbie?
So horsepower is basically, well, how the engine makes power is, by revving up. So the faster the engine spins at peak RPMs, the more horsepower it makes. So it's like, running a sprint versus a bodybuilder.
Okay.
So, person who's running a sprint race, they have let's say, a lot of RPM. They are running fast
Mm-hmm.
and
Longer legs.
longer legs. And then person who's lifting weights, they have more torque. So
I see.
when you have more torque in the engine, you have like low end power, like low end, bottom end torque, let's say. Yeah. So
Okay. Right, so Monkey, we could just like do so this is, let's say, when you were saying revving, and a lot of people just don't know what revving actually means. So if this is the cylinder of the engine,
yeah,
and this is, let's say, a piston, you can call it piston.
yeah,
So usually the sports bike with very high speeds, they have a longer piston, is it, or shorter?
they have shorter.
They have shorter
Yeah.
piston.
Yeah.
Okay, and the ones with higher torque, like the Harley Davidson and the
Yeah.
choppers, they have a longer piston, so they
Yes.
can produce more torque.
Yeah.
And I think there was a philosopher who said that if you give me a what do you call this thing? This the ranch.
Yeah.
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 If you give me a ranch long enough, I could
Yeah.
move I could move Earth.
Yeah.
So the longer the ranch
Yeah.
is, the higher the torque
is,
will be.
yeah. Yeah.
Right. So these motorcycles have a huge
Yeah.
amount of torque, and they.
Yeah, and it's also in the engine terminology, they call it bore versus stroke.
Okay.
So the higher the stroke is,
Mhm.
meaning like how much up and down a piston moves, the
Mhm.
longer the stroke is, so the more torque you have. And
Okay.
on a super bike, sports bikes, they have shorter stroke but longer, bigger bore. Bore is
Mhm.
the width of the piston.
Okay. Width of the
Yeah.
piston. So in sports
Yeah.
bike there is a bigger bore.
Yeah, the bore is bigger and the stroke is a little bit shorter compared to,
Okay.
let's say, high torque engines.
Right.
Yeah. That's like the basic understanding of that. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So the folks who didn't know about that, now you do. Touring motorcycles. Now touring motorcycles are one of the most popular motorcycles in Europe.
Yes. So, for example, BMW GS R1300 GS is the most selling motorcycle in Europe.
Okay.
And the thing about touring motorcycles now, they're actually becoming more overlapped with adventure motorcycles.
Right.
So, for example, BMW GS
Mhm.
is, let's say, in German it's Gelände Sport. Yeah. So it can go like off-road and sport. So you can technically take a GS to the track, or you can take it to like off-road trails in the forest, in the woods. So it's like combining both. So
It's a multi-purpose.
yeah,
It's like the motorcycle. That's what
Yeah,
people understand
yeah.
these days. And also, I think the policemen are using the same
the
motorcycles, right?
policemen are using the RT. So they're not. I mean, in some countries they might use GS, but in Germany and Poland they use the RT, which is like a sports tourer motorcycle.
When
Yeah.
it comes to policemen, right, and their motorcycles, what is something that people get wrong about the policemen and on the police bikes? Please tell us, Salman, because one day you told me about that and it just blew my absolute mind. So tell me about that. What is a policeman doing on a motorcycle, and what is his capability, and what's people get wrong about that?
Policemen are really highly trained personnel when it comes to riding motorcycles. They can ride better than most of the riders on the street, and they are specifically trained to ride in certain like conditions, like rain, whatever, like, and they are able to catch up with any sports bikes because also their bikes are like 1300 cc. They have a lot of horsepower and they have a lot of torque. So they can catch up so easily to you, and you won't even realize that they are behind you.
But won't you hear them coming?
No, because they're very quiet. Yeah.
That is the thing. That's
Yeah.
how you just turn around. There is a policeman. Be like, come on, baby, show me your driving license and some more things. So beware about them. If you see a policeman, slow your shit down, because that's not. He's gonna catch up to you. It doesn't matter what you ride. If you're riding a rocket engine, he's just gonna be right behind you, just like all the BMW drivers out there.
And you shouldn't be speeding on the road anyways. I sound like a grandpa, but you know.
Says a guy who has like two 1000cc motorcycles. Sure, Salman, we shouldn't be speeding on the motorcycles. Right, then we have Scrambler.
Yeah.
Yeah, Scrambler,
So-
what's their use?
Scrambler is basically, well, the concept came when they, back in, I don't know when it was exactly, which year, they were taking the retro style motorcycles. For example, the Cafe Racer style. They were taking these kind of retro style motorcycles, they were putting off-road tires, and they were racing in kind of off-road and on-road races.
Okay.
And so because back in the day, you know, they didn't really have so much engineering technology to make something like a off-road bike, dirt bike with longer suspension and everything. So they were just taking like a retro style motorcycle, putting off-road tires and
Mhm.
riding it. So that's how the concept came about. And now you can buy a scrambler from Ducati, from Triumph, from many motorcycles
Mhm.
companies.
Mhm.
And yeah, you can do light off-roading, and you can do like a lot of on-roading, like as well. So
Right. So it's a mix
yeah,
between a cafe racer and an
yeah,
off-road.
yeah. Although the difference between a proper off-road bike and a scrambler would be the suspension.
Right.
So
Okay. So you cannot just like go too crazy with the
no,
scrambler.
yeah,
Just minor,
yeah,
just having fun with it.
yeah.
Okay. Motor trike. That is a bike. That's not a motorcycle. It's just let's we're gonna skip.
It's a trike. Yeah.
Munna by MBBS motorcycle. Right. And then we have cruiser. That is a Ducati Diavel
Yeah,
as.
so it's kind of like overlapping between choppers and cruisers. I mean, I don't know exactly, technical details between chopper and cruiser, but they fall into the same category.
Mm.
I'm sure there are some differences, but I'm not a cruiser guy, so I don't know much. But
Mhm.
like for example, here there's a photo of Ducati Diavel. Yeah,
Mm.
Diavel is something, sports cruiser they call it. It's like a
Yeah.
subcategory of cruiser. So,
Mhm.
but in general, we talked about cruisers and the choppers, so it's similar category, I would say.
Okay, so just to like cruise on a highway and also just like do a bit of sports bike thingy, but you're not super sports bike. You don't have the balls to take it to the track, but you're like, it's a nice looking motorcycle. I'm gonna get that. So that is a cruiser for you. Cafe racers, one of my favorites. I also have one cafe racer. I love it. It's aesthetically very pleasing, and it's a very nice tire. And the cafe racers actually originated in 1970s when people used to race from cafe to cafe. And that's all I know about it. Salman, would you like to add something on it?
Yeah, so basically cafe racer or neo retro motorcycles. So
Mm.
they were all basically how the design of motorcycle used to be, like from the start. How motorcycles. It's like a retro style,
Mm-hmm.
and specifically cafe racers. They have a little bit like handlebars are lower,
Mm.
so they are more sporty on the front.
Okay.
But they fall under the category of retro style
Mm.
motorcycles. Yeah,
Mm-hmm. A scooter. Salman, what about a scooter?
scooters
You
are
were
the
like,
best, man.
they are the greatest thing. Yeah, that's all we're gonna say. The reason why you get your food delivered in 15 minutes, thanks to scooters. If they didn't exist, you'd be dying hungry for an hour. So that's much respect to scooters. Shout out to scooters.
Yeah,
And
fun
now,
fun fact is a lot of like a motorcycle enthusiast who's been like racing and everything. They ride sports bikes all their life,
mm,
but they also have scooters to go around, buy groceries and stuff.
yeah,
So
this
they're
is the most comfortable thing in the biking thing.
yeah, it's still two wheels and
Yeah,
still
yeah, it's great, man. Moped, however, the most powerful segment. A moped is about 60 cc.
more or
Uh,
less, yeah.
yeah, pretty much. And then an electric motorcycle, we don't.
Although I've tried one.
Yeah,
There's a Finnish company called Verge Motorcycles.
yeah,
So they were here in the Warsaw Motorcycle Expo
yeah,
2 years ago,
yeah.
and I tried it, and oh my God,
How is it?
it's so much torque,
Oh,
so much, because there's no like energy losses.
yeah. There's no
Because
delay.
there's no delay. It's just like a switch.
Oh man, that must be dangerous if you don't know how to.
Yeah, I mean, although they have a lot of electronics controlling the power and everything, we're gonna get into the electronic rider aids and
Yeah.
everything later.
Mhm.
But yeah, they are
Those are electric bikes.
really good.
Yeah. And now we go to the favorite segment, which you can talk about for 3 light years, is a sports bike category.
Yeah. So as I talked about a little bit about sport bikes, like
Mhm.
Yamaha R1,
Mhm.
this one is Aprilia RS V4. You have a Ducati Panigale V4 and BMW S1000 M1000 RR. So, well, these were designed to go put the fastest lap time around the racetracks.
Mm.
So they are specifically designed to go fast. The way they are, the whole like body design,
Mhm.
they are like your weight is on the front of the bike,
Mhm.
and the aerodynamics, the body fairings are specifically designed to cut through air.
Okay.
And yeah, what else can I
Yeah,
say?
as much as 70% of the speed of a vehicle is because the loss of speed of a vehicle, almost 70% is because of the friction it faces from the air.
The,
So
the drag, yeah.
yeah, the
Mm.
drag, we call it also the drag, and the whole sporty and nasty looking thing is just for that. and it's more about a skill thing than to just have fun with these bikes. Definitely you can have fun with these bikes, but
Yeah.
it's only fun until you don't have fun. So if you want to get into serious racing and all, you should be taking a sports bike.
Yeah, I mean, to have the fastest lap time, although you can go to a track with any bike you want,
Yeah.
but to have, that's why in racing they always use sports bikes, because that they are designed for that purpose. The whole like chassis, the frame of the motorcycle is designed to one thing and only one thing in mind, is to have cornering ability, cornering speed, and the handlebars, the suspension, everything is designed for handling this speed.
Right, Salman. Since we are talking about all these motorcycles, what are your top 5 motorcycle brands? Rapid fire.
Top
Number
5 motorcycle brands?
Yeah.
Yamaha.
Yamaha first.
Yeah.
Second,
Honda.
Honda. Third,
BMW.
BMW.
Ducati.
Ducati.
And MV Agusta.
MV Agusta. Those are top 5. Yamaha stays on top. The Japanese are amazing at designing the quality, speed, power, you name it. Also the design.
All like I would say all Japanese, for the big fours they call it. So
Mhm.
Honda, Yamaha, Suzuki, and Kawasaki.
Mhm.
They make the best bikes.
Right. Okay. So now we've jumped into the motorcycles. How about, Salman? We talk about a little bit of a gear. Motorcycles. What are the essentials? If you want to get into motorcycling, these must be the essential things you should have with you if you want to live. If you don't worry about it. So the number one, the biggest culprit here is a helmet, and not just a helmet, a good helmet. What makes a good helmet, Salman?
So first of all, it has to be CE rated.
CE
So,
rated.
Yeah, ECE. So that's like a certificate that you get after testing the product. So for example, HJC, they take the helmet, they make it through some testing. So they crash it at certain points, certain speeds. I mean, I'm not a helmet guy, but yeah, in a way, it's like EC rated means that that's the bare minimum. You need to have any helmet to be, especially in Europe, if you want to sell a helmet, you need to have it certified.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
And then second of all, like it has to be comfortable for you, because every helmet has a different shape, and everyone has a unique size, shape of the head. So that has to fit you well.
yeah.
And
For the Harley riders, helmets are smaller because the. Anyways, get a good helmet, guys. It might seem expensive on the front. Because when I was buying my helmet, it was about 800 zlotys, and I'm like, man, that is so expensive. But hey, what's more expensive? A helmet or a traumatic brain injury that leaves you paralyzed? I'm sorry, I got graphic there, but that's what happens when you get a shitty helmet. So don't get a bad one.
yeah,
Also, the parts of helmet, there are inbuilt speakers that you can
well,
have.
that's like a aftermarket. Let's say, although some helmet manufacturers, they give you inbuilt speakers and a Bluetooth connectivity, but you can always get an aftermarket. But every helmet has a pocket for speakers, so you can always install them.
Okay.
And okay, one more thing I was talking about the helmet. For example, this one, HTC Alpha 11. So this is carbon fiber made. This is very light because, especially on sport bikes, if you're riding hard on the track, if you're even doing long distance, the lighter the helmet is, the more comfortable it is for you. Because once you start getting uncomfortable, then you are actually hindering your ability to focus,
Okay.
and you're hindering your skills because of the pain in your neck or whatever.
Right.
So-
And also there is exaggerated pain because of the excess wind
Yeah, as well.
that creates pressure on the neck, and marginally it gets so crazy that
Yeah.
you are not so passionate about riding motorcycles after three hours of doing it.
Yeah,
Right. So that's the helmet. Is a jacket essential?
of course. Jackets. I would say, when you are starting out, the bare minimum you need is a jacket with a back protector, with a shoulder protector,
And
elbow
elbow
protector,
protectors.
etc. And you need some pants which are certified to be like motorcycle specific, right?
Okay.
So there you can buy jeans. We have like here normal pants, textile ones, or you can buy jeans or any kind of material
Okay.
which has protective pads, and it has abrasion resistance.
All right.
So meaning like it can endure slide on the tarmac. Because if you wear a normal jeans, the moment you touch the tarmac, it's gonna rip off like anything. So and your skin as well. So
Yeah.
you can imagine if you don't know how it is, just try,
Exactly.
getting on your knees on the tarmac, and
Shit.
you will
Yeah,
see.
try it, guys. And also one additional tip: if you are getting those pants and jackets, make sure for additional protection you get a thong. It's very important. Saved my own life couple of times. Love it. Extremely comfortable. Anyway, so we have helmet, we have gloves, we have chest protector.
Yes.
Yeah.
So these are, well, chest protector. Normally, riders don't wear it. It's more for like, okay, the more safety you have is better. But chest protectors I've seen only in racing scenarios or track scenarios, where you put additional chest protector. So in case you roll over or something, it has some protection.
Right.
And when it comes to what gloves and boots,
Yeah.
well, also the same. It has to be C rated. It has to, well, if you buy from any big brands like Alpenstars, Dainese, you don't need to worry about like safety. And also at some point, the price does not mean more safety. The same with helmets. Like for example, HJC R511 or C70. So C70 is about, I believe, or C7, I think, it's around 500-600 zloty. And the R511 is like 3,000 to 2,500 zloty. But if you look at the safety, there's nothing changes in that price zone.
Okay.
So it's the lower end of the helmet is as safe as the higher end. The only difference you have with the price is comfort.
Okay.
So you have
comfort and additional features.
Yeah,
like
additional features. For example, carbon fiber is lighter and all these things, but safety is not compromised unless you buy some things from AliExpress, Temu,
Yeah, don't get those things. It will kill you before you fall down, basically. Right. So that is and knee and elbow guards. If you have a decent enough jacket, but if you guys, if you have a 1000cc motorcycle, it's better to have all of these things because once you're damaged, it's just hard to go back, especially when you're older. So there is that. Awesome. Salman, how much does a jacket cost? Like a lower end for a beginner?
Like a textile one, which it shouldn't cost more than 300-400 zloty.
300, so like $100 that, $200 this. So under $1,000, you can have all of the gear. Unlike what people think, it's not that crazy expensive. If you have money to spend, of course, the sky is the limit. However, under $1,000, if you have a $20,000 motorcycle, you can spend $1,000. So that is the must-have pack for the motorcycles. Great.
Yeah, and also I would mention that having leather, in my opinion, is the safest because it has the best abrasion protection, right? So it can slide the best on the tarmac if you fall, compared to, although some textiles can still slide, but leather is the best. That's why leather is more expensive. If you want to get a full leather suit, well, that's going to cost you like at least a good one, €1,000, $1,000, something like that. So, but it's going to last you years.
Yeah. Also, it's like an investment that you're making in a hobby, and then just take it as that. Great. Okay, Salman, what do we have next? We have, all right, I always wanted to know the difference between, because when I was a kid, I was playing these MotoGP racing games. There was a Motocross Madness, which I used to play, but there is MotoGP games, and there is something about those motorcycles. They look like sports bike, but just a bit too tattooed and kind of too mechanical. What is the difference between a normal sports bike and a track bike?
A track bike or a MotoGP bike? Yeah.
Oh, they're different?
Yeah.
Oh, shit. Okay.
Because, first of all, MotoGP bike is completely prototyped. It's like Formula 1. Formula 1 versus a normal, I don't know, BMW M3.
So, basically, what Formula 1 is for cars is MotoGP for motorcycles.
Yeah.
And what division do they compete in? 600cc or 1000?
1000. So MotoGP is the ultimate level, like the most competitive racing series that you can ever go. And the motorcycles itself, it's like comparing to a normal Yamaha R1, for example. Yamaha also races in MotoGP.
Okay.
And it's the M1. The MotoGP bike is called M1. So everything I'm talking about, up to a single bolt and nut, is different.
Can we see the picture of that?
So this is an example of Ducati, right? So on the left we have the MotoGP bike. On the right we have the Panigale V4R, which is also used in a different racing series, but is based on a production road-going Panigale V4R. So you can see just by the design, first of all, the aerodynamics, the wind effect, the ground effect. So if you look at the MotoGP bike, they have big-ass wings. Every body panel is designed to produce downforce, produce like less drag, and the suspension, the frame itself, the frame of the motorcycle is completely different. They use sometimes carbon, they use aluminum, and the frames, how do you say this, flexibility, how much the frame flexes is, it's like, I cannot even like explain to you how technical it is, but it's super different. So, and in a nutshell, it's completely prototyped. So you
Alright, so we have, okay, we don't have headlights, so
yeah,
there is no headlight, man. You pay so much. How much does it cost to make?
a MotoGP bike,
Yeah.
like close to €1 million.
Jesus Christ, and I'm not even Christian. This is costing $1 million. Why? It's because, well, even in the most $1 million variant, you're not gonna have any headlights. There is just, as Salman said, there is everything is specifically designed for track. So every nut bolt has to be the lowest weight, highest resilience, providing a lot of downforce. And what about, okay, we will get to tires. And this is MotoGP bike,
Yeah.
and this is a
Like track, let's say track bike, or
Track
like
bike,
a
so a
different
production
racing
bike, yes.
based on production bike, but it's still racing bike. It's still a little bit modified. It's a V4R. So this is also like, comparing to normal Panigale. It has different suspension.
Okay.
Engine components are a little bit different.
still not
Yeah.
the one you can ride in the.
You can buy this bike to ride on the roads.
Okay.
Still.
But is
Yeah.
it worth it? Not really, I guess.
I mean, if you're a professional racer, only then you can extract the power of the bike. If you're like a mere mortal,
Yeah.
like me and you, beginners, so
Yeah, it's
we can't
not-
even
not
get
really
close to
worth
the
it.
limit of what these bikes can do.
Right.
But like, yeah, comparing to MotoGP bike, as you can see.
So
and-
this is $1 million, and this
Yeah.
is.
Also, one more thing which is completely different about MotoGP bikes is they have something called lowering devices. So these bikes have, for example, when they are launching from the start line, their bikes completely squat to the ground. So the rear suspension completely compresses like this, and the
Okay,
front as
for
well.
the camera.
Yeah,
Yeah. So it just completely.
Yeah. not like too much like that, but you get the idea. So
Yeah.
the front and the back lowers so down so that they don't have a wheelie when launching, and they have the best possible like launch.
Okay.
So they are lowering devices. They use a lot of different kinds of technology to achieve that. And once they get to the first corner after the heavy braking, they automatically go back to the normal position.
Okay, and then it just stays that way
Yeah.
throughout the race.
Yeah. So they
Right.
use that to have the best possible launch.
Okay.
Because
launch mechanisms.
Also, MotoGP bikes, they make around 350, 400 horsepower, more or less. Yeah.
Oh my God, that
No.
is a sports car.
Yeah. And they weigh like, I don't know, 170 kilos. So,
There is the power to weight ratio is just fucking beyond.
and at that speeds, the rider has to be top level rider. I mean, you
Well,
cannot.
No shit.
No, but even the racers who race in the different classes, like a World Superbike, when they go on the MotoGP bike, there's like, oh my God, what is this? I cannot ride this. This is
Yeah.
too much.
Yeah.
The forces they have, the G forces they feel on the bike, it's just unlike anything else.
So it's not like your average Joe just going there, like even a motorbiker can. He won't be able to handle all that.
No, the riders who ride in MotoGP, they've been training to ride this bike since they're 5 years old, or even less sometimes.
Well.
They are born, they're 5 years old, let's say. Their parents, or even by themselves, is like, okay, one day I'm gonna become a MotoGP rider, and that's their mission from day one.
Oh my God. So, bro, if you're 6, it's too late. You've missed your fucking chance. Stop it, all right?
And also one more
Yeah.
difference. Okay, I don't know how much time you wanna spend on this, but I can tell you quickly. The brakes are as well carbon fiber in MotoGP
Okay.
bikes. So like in some cars you have ceramic brakes. MotoGP bikes have carbon brakes,
Okay.
and normal bikes have steel brakes. So it makes a huge difference because carbon fiber does not expand under heat. So it takes some time to get heat in those brakes, and once they get the temperature, they grab like crazy. They're breaking this power is just like, I think, double or triple than the normal bike.
Right. So they need to get warmed up to perform better.
Yeah. So when they start the session, they always have a warm-up lap. And for example, a normal rider like World Superbike rider or some other people, journalists, when they try to ride the MotoGP bike, they get on the bike, they feel like they have no brakes.
Oh.
Because the temperature is not built up in the brakes. And then when they get to the temperature, they grab so hard
that it's just instant braking.
Yeah. So that's also one key difference. Although I'm just scratching the surface
here.
Yeah,
totally,
because
man. Totally.
Technically, it's
everything can be explained.
It's an engineering marvel, basically. So
right, they look sick.
And also, the engines are completely different. Yeah, so
also the engines
completely different.
Man, so there is nothing. It's as far away from a sports bike as far as like a sports bike is from a cycle.
Yeah.
That is good to know. And the suspension and when we talk about the tires, Salman, what people get wrong about the tires and the tire pressure? Like, explain to me what different types of tires are there in a nutshell, of course.
Yeah.
And like, what's one tip you need to give to the general population when they're riding these motorcycles that please do it because you're doing it wrong?
Yeah. First of all, tire pressures. So I've seen a lot of new riders and some experienced riders. They never have any idea about tire pressures, and they don't even check it. I know some people who never check their tire pressure from the past 5 years and riding it. So if the tires have less pressure, what will happen is like they will deform. So when the tire gets deformed, they're not designed to have grip at different angles. Like when they're like squished, they don't have the same amount of grip, and when they have too much pressure, higher pressure, they become like a balloon. So the contact patch decreases. So you need to have like a operating temperature, operating pressure, which is like generally for sport bikes and street bikes, 36 psi or 2.5 bar on the front, and the rear is like 2.9 bar, 3 bar, 40 psi, 42 psi.
Okay.
Every manufacturer, they will actually give you like a specific pressure for your tires. And also on the track, you should have different pressures, because on the track you're generating a lot of heat in the tires. So you need to drop the pressures when you start track riding.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So to condense it, check your motorcycle tire pressure, 2.5 bar in the front and 2.5 to 2.9 bar in the rear tires. And if you're not doing it, you are compromising not just the safety of the bike, but also the tire health and the grip it might have on the roads.
Yes.
That's correct.
For sure.
And which tires are more grippy? Like, I don't see any striations in these tires, so that means more grip?
Yes. So the reason, slick tires, in racing they always use slick tires. That means they don't have any grooves like you see on these tires, like on normal tires. You know why they have these grooves? Do you know the reason?
No.
This is all because for water management. So water siphoning. So when you ride in the rain, the water can actually escape from the tire.
Okay.
So this is why you have these grooves. And in racing scenarios, in dry conditions, you don't need any siphoning of water away from the tires. So you have slick tires without any grooves in it. And then there are different compounds, based on what kind of temperature they're operating in. So if the weather is colder, they use a different compound. When it's hotter, they use a different compound, like soft, hard, etc. But like in a nutshell, for as a beginner / intermediate track rider, you have, let's say, starting from the street tires, you have street tires which are designed to go. I'm talking about sport bikes and street bikes. They're tires which are designed to like ride on the street comfortably, and you can occasionally go do some track days. But they hit their their maximum grip level too fast when you're going really hard on the track. And then the next level of tires are some tires which are designed for both track and street. So for example, in my motorcycles, I've always used Pirellis. I use also Michelin. So Pirellis have something like, from the starting point, they have sport touring tire, which is Angel GT, Angel ST. And then they move on to Rosso for Corsa, not Corsa. which is like street tire. You can also go for track more or less. And then they have another next level of that is Corsa, which is designed for more track.
Okay.
And then ultimately they have Super Corsa.
Mm.
So this is like a fully track tire. You can actually run, you can do crazy track days, you can do crazy lean angles. They have the ultimate grip, but they wouldn't last as long as a sport touring tire because they're softer. If you commute on them, you know what happens? The center part of the tire,
Yeah.
it becomes flatter.
Yeah.
So because they were not designed to, commute for so many kilometers,
Right.
1,000 kilometers. So
okay, that's I didn't know about that.
yeah.
So these striations, I thought they were for grip or something, but
No.
turns out these are for water management. And the more smooth the tire looks like, the more it is basically for the track days for the people who don't know too much about motorcycles, So there is that, and you should you have on your GSX 1000R the intermediate, the medium.
Yeah, so it's like a sport street plus track day tire. So it's like a hybrid between two,
Okay.
which you can, and there are two compounds in that. So there's a harder compound in the middle, and there's softer compound in the sides of the tire.
Right.
So if the harder it is in the middle, the longer it will last. If you do commuting, long distance or even on the streets, if you have harder tire in the middle, it's gonna last you longer, and softer on the side, because when you're going on the track, you're leaning more, so you have more grip on the side of the tire. So I have
got
those. Yeah.
Got it. That is wonderful.
And one more thing about slick tires is they are not street legal, so you cannot ride them on street.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
So if you were thinking, don't.
Also, one more thing about slick tires is like even advanced level track riders,
Yeah.
sometimes they don't use slick tires because you have to actually manage the temperature in the tires. Really, like you have to really watch out, because the thing is they need tire warmers. They have to be in an operating window of temperature. So what they do is they put tire warmers. They go on the track. I mean, if you don't ride them hard enough, they will lose grip. They will lose the temperature. So if a beginner rider, like even me, like I consider myself beginner on the track still. If I put slick tires, even if it's like warm, I will crash because I cannot ride it to that level that the temperature stays in the tire.
Right. So that's why you use the one in the middle.
Yeah, so more like
Great.
street biased tire.
Yeah. That's a lot of tire information, guys. So tire enthusiasts out there, yep. That is some nice.
Cool.
Yeah, that is some nice tire things. Great, Salman. Let's move on to the next part, and which is how to service your motorcycle. Doesn't matter if you're a beginner or something. So let me tell you, because I just recently, last year I bought a motorcycle and I had no idea about what to do. Really, I had absolute no idea. So I went to him and he showed me how to properly service a motorcycle. And you can do it yourself, It's not rocket science, it's motorcycle science, and you just need a stand to put your bike on and do all these things. So Salman, what are the essentials for keeping your bike in check or maintaining it so you can ride it for a very, very long time? What is this thing? This is
That's
called
an oil filter.
That's an oil
So
filter.
It does what it says, filters
Right.
oil.
Filters the oil, engine oil, not the
Yeah.
petrol. And that is a spark plug.
Yes.
That is a spark plug. Okay. And that is
That's also a oil filter,
okay.
basically. Yeah.
And that is oil. Are there different types of oil?
There are many different types of oils.
Okay.
So if you want to get into that, it's like I can tell you in basic form. So there are like different like categories of oils. So there are
Right.
ratings. Yeah.
Yeah. So Salman, how about we start from when should you change your engine oil? About what kilometers?
So, well, depends of course on bikes, of course on like how high performance an engine is, etc. As a general rule of thumb, if you're riding, let's say in Europe, like in the colder environment, once every season, because we don't ride, let's say, all year around. So once every season, it's good to change it.
Yeah.
So how many kilometers do I do in a season? Like maybe 3,000.
3,000, 5,000.
Maybe 4. Yeah, that's
so the once should be enough.
Yeah.
Okay. And that is about engine changing. How about chain? People like they have no idea about what
Yeah.
to do with chain, and their chain gets rusted. Chain is
Yes,
super important for your
it
performance
is.
and all that.
For your safety as well.
All right.
Because chain is what driving the wheels. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
it's connected to the engine, so it's driving your wheels.
So tell me something about chain
So
maintenance.
first of all, a chain always has to be lubed. So there has to be a lubrication on the chain, So
Yeah.
you have to lube the chain after I do, for example, after every 200, 300 kilometers of riding,
Okay.
I put the fresh lube on that.
Hey man, you gotta lube it, baby. Yeah. It doesn't
And
matter if it's a chain or whatever.
and also you need to clean the chain. So after riding 500 kilometers or like twice a month, what I do is, put the bike on the stand.
Exactly.
I put some degreaser. You can buy chain cleaners.
Mm-hmm.
You have to clean the chain. Use a brush to get rid of all the debris, and then you have to put fresh lube on it. So if you don't maintain that, you know what happens? So it's gonna corrode. So if the chain corrodes, then it's gonna risk breaking it.
Yeah.
And if imagine if the chain breaks when you're riding, it's gonna
Yeah.
get stuck in the rear wheel, and what's gonna happen? You're gonna fly off the bike.
Exactly. You're in La La Land in next second.
And one more important thing is adjusting the chain, because chains have some slack. So it needs to be at a perfect slack measurement. So every manufacturer, every type of motorcycle, they have different kinds of slack level. So I don't know, like 30, 40 millimeters up and down. So
Okay.
more or less. And if it's too loose, it can come off the sprocket, and it's gonna create a problem.
Yeah. If
If
it's too tight.
If it's too tight, it's gonna break very easily.
All
And it's
right.
also gonna drive the sprockets. I mean, it's gonna put too much pressure on the sprockets, and you're gonna have basically, how do you say, like wear on the sprockets immaturely.
Yeah. Okay.
So it has to be. You need to check it all the time. Like not all the time, but at least once a week.
Once a week. Okay.
Check
That's
the
so
slack. Yeah.
correct. Okay. So if I have to summarize as what I learned right now is first check your chain. Check the slack. If it's too much, you need to fix it according to the company recommendations. After every 200 or 300 kilometers, clean your chain with the, what was that compound, Salman? The chain cleaner?
Yeah, chain cleaner. Like for at least you need to lube it first.
Yeah.
Like every
So first
200
lubing
yeah.
or first cleaning?
So like let's say you clean the chain once a month
Yeah.
or something like that,
Okay.
and then you lube it every 300-400 kilometers of riding.
Okay.
So
Especially more in the rain.
yeah, that's a good point, because every time you ride in the rain,
Mm-hmm.
you need to apply lube, because it's gonna, with the rain, it's gonna wash off,
Yeah.
and also it's gonna rust the chain very fast
Okay.
with the moisture.
Right.
Yeah.
So check the looseness, check the lubricant,
Yeah.
and check if it's clean, there is
Yeah.
not much debris, and check if your teeth, after 10,000, 15,000 kilometers, check the teeth of the sprockets. Are they good enough? If they're sharp, you gotta change it immediately, because it can start doing it. It's what happened in my bike, and Salman told me to change it, and I did, and actually the performance of my bike went up. By maximum it was going 100, and then it started going 130, and that's quite a lot of difference, especially when it comes to like smaller motorcycles. Right. And about the engine oil, change it 5 to 10,000 kilometers. And since we are running short of time, we are going to say that check what motorcycle you have, and you can go to Google, ChatGPT, wherever, and find out which oil is going to be the best for you. And if the oil is dark and black, and that is the time to also just change it very fast.
Cool.
Awesome. So that is a bit about servicing your motorcycle. All right, Salman, now let's talk about a couple of things that in the biker world, what are the top 5 mistakes that beginner bikers make?
Okay. So I wrote down a couple of them. So first, I will tell you from my perspective the mistakes that I did starting out. So first, not learning about maintaining your own bike. Like we just talked about it a little bit. You need to learn how to do basic maintenance, because if you rely on going to a mechanic all the time, then your experience of owning a motorcycle, it's gonna change, because you're gonna get really fed up. Because especially in Poland, there are not many motorcycle mechanics, and even if they are really in high demand, and they will charge you a lot of money. So I know some people who, even for oil change, they go to the mechanic. So that's gonna really add to your cost of owning a motorcycle. So that's, I would say, mistake number one: not learning about motorcycle maintenance. Second one is experiencing different kinds of motorcycle. So when I was younger, I would say I was always sport bikes, sport bikes, sport bikes. That's all I saw. I was just neglecting everything around it. So go out there, try different kinds of motorcycles, because you never know what else you would like. Because this is the beauty about motorcycle world, is how diverse it is. So like we were talking about off-roading, yeah. It's such a completely different experience. Even though you have two wheels, you have a handlebar, you have similar controls, but the experience is completely different. So yeah, go out and try different motorcycles,
Right.
and
Okay.
you get to understand motorcycles even more. What else? Yeah, buying too much bike for you or too little. So some people ask, so what should be the best first bike? Hayabusa.
Yeah.
So starting from a point where it has to be still manageable. First of all, the motorcycle has to be manageable for you, your skill level.
Yeah.
So if you start on like a 1000 cc, you will develop some bad habits, and you won't be able to basically understand the basics of the motorcycle. Anyone can go sit on the bike, put full gas, go like 200 kilometers per hour. Anyone can do that. It's very easy. But the main issue comes when the corner comes. So when the turn comes, then if you don't have the skills to actually turn the motorcycle, it's not so as easy as driving a car. You just turn the steering wheel and you turn the car. On a motorcycle, there are many different things to consider.
You're right.
So that leads me on to my next point, which was investing in riding courses.
Ooh,
So
okay.
people get too fixated on modifying their motorcycles to make it faster. But what's the best investment is investing in yourself, your skills. Even because nowadays, if you buy a motorcycle, brand new motorcycle, I would tell you it's more than enough, more than capable, and it's way above your skill level anyways. You don't need to change anything. You don't need to modify anything on a motorcycle.
It's a skill issue.
It's a skill issue, yeah, exactly. So investing in riding courses, investing in track courses, it's gonna change your riding completely.
Right.
As you get more confident, you're gonna enjoy. You can enjoy on a 10-year-old motorcycle with proper skills.
Yeah.
Than buying. I know some guys who buy brand new motorcycles.
And they have no idea how to actually even utilize that hardware.
Exactly, and they're cruising around slow speeds, which is
Does it hurt your
abomination,
soul?
Abomination of a powerful motorcycle,
Yeah.
So yeah, that's one more thing. What else did I write down? Yeah, so riding on street.
Yeah.
Treating streets like a racetrack. So okay, I'm gonna sound like a grandpa again, but don't treat the street as a track, and don't think that you are invincible or you will never crash, because one wrong move from a car is just end for you. Because every time you go out there, you are risking your life, because there is a chance, 0.1 whatever percent of chance that you might die. Yeah, this is sad reality, but it is what it is. So if you think that you can just ride however on the street, thinking that you own it, just because you ride a motorcycle, you're super cool and you can do crazy speeds. So I was like that. I'm not saying that I am
like holier than thou attitude, or
Exactly.
no. Because you can only tell about it when you experienced it yourself. And
yeah.
once you have a super powerful engine under you, it's very obvious to feel you can conquer the world. But again, this is not your playground.
Yeah, and I
You
see.
might not have any mistake, but let's say one wrong move by a car and you're not paying attention, and boom, that's...
And I see, if you look up the statistics, almost every season, one motorcycle rider dies.
every day.
Not every day, at least once a season, once a summer riding season. At least,
One dies every season.
yeah, one.
Oh,
I see the news. If you see the news in Poland, there are so many people dying because of. I mean, okay, sometimes it's not their fault, but just because some other riders might do the other car might do something, doesn't mean that you can just not focus on them. Yeah, you need to think about. And majority of accidents happens when lane changes. So as a motorcycle rider, you're constantly in the blind spot for cars. So because sometimes cars cannot see you.
Yeah.
And they're indicating Okay, they see that in the mirror. Okay, there's nobody, but we are actually in the blind spot. Not everyone will look over their shoulder through the back mirror, back window to see the motorcycle. And they change the lane, and you hit them, and you basically fly off the bike.
Yeah.
So this is really, really important thing to always
like ride like you're invisible.
Yeah, you should be predictable, and you should be try to be more visible on the street, and never trust cars. Never trust cars, and always think like everybody's trying to kill you. This is the mindset you have. Be proactive, not reactive.
Yeah, because the moment you're reactive, it's already too late.
Yeah.
You cannot have like slacks in riding motorcycles. That's the risk it comes with, but the rewards are, you won't really find out until you start riding. And there is this big fear of motorcycles are considered risky. Sure, and so are many other things. But once you do it too carefully, it can be a really pleasant experience. And have you seen some on the death wobble?
Yeah.
Why does it happen?
So the reason why it happens is when the front wheel lifts off the ground a little bit, and then when it lands back on. So when it lands, sometimes the suspension is like rebound. It's called compression and rebound, and it can have like a accelerated effect, and it's gonna start shaking the handlebars. Okay, modern bikes, they have a steering dampener that's gonna slow down the wobble. Also, if you have a bad tire pressure, again, it's so important. If you have too high or too low pressure on the front tire, it's gonna like deform when you land, and then it's gonna create a shocking wave to the whole front of the bike. So it's gonna start wobbling.
Right.
So
can we just go back here? Here. Right here. So these suspensions are basically controlling the death wobble in the modern motorcycles.
So they are controlling the dampening, in general. Why suspension? Why do we have suspension? To basically absorb the impacts, imperfections on the road, to absorb them and make you better like a comfort on the bike. So if they are like poorly set up, if they're too soft or too hard, and they can cause problems when you have especially when you're riding hard. Like a lot of death wobbles I've seen is when people do wheelies.
And they land back up, and
when you land, that's the problem happens, because you can learn to pick up the bike, lift the bike rather like in not such a long time. If you practice a little bit, you can easily learn to wheelie. But when you don't land properly, because I've experienced it myself. I've wheelied on controlled environment, and when you land back, if you don't land smooth enough, you can really like hammer the front suspension down, and then you can create a wobble. So the best way to get out of a wobble is to actually let go of the handlebars, not like literally let go, but loosen the grip, because it's gonna correct on its own.
Okay.
Because that's how physics works. Because gyroscopic forces are going forward, so automatically the bike's gonna control itself. Because when you try to grab it, it's gonna make it more worse. So the best thing to get out of a wobble is to loosen your grip on the handlebars and let the bike do its thing. That's the best thing.
All right, that's the advice. Do nothing, dude. Pray this shit stop.
Just make sure you check your pressures. Make sure your suspension is adjusted properly.
Yeah, exactly. Being proactive is the best advice. And once it happens, just don't worry about it. It's just hopefully it's autocorrect itself. Salman, we are approaching the end, so I'm gonna have a rapid fire with you.
Okay.
All right, man. So, 3 favorite places to ride.
3 favorite places. So one is, you mean like the specific place or just anything?
Just like general. Would you prefer track? Okay, I'm gonna give you 3 scenarios. It's the city. You get a lot of looks. It's a track, and it's like the mountain areas, like So once again, we start. Favorite place to ride?
Track.
Favorite motorcycle?
Yamaha R1.
Your most trusted gear equipment, that without that you will never ride, except helmet, of course.
My jacket and boots.
Jacket and boots. Favorite track rider?
Marc Marquez, racer.
Favorite track racer, yes. Um, Let me think, because I'm making these questions up as we go. I haven't written those down. Best new riding tech.
Alpine Stars and Dainese, they are making airbag suits.
Mm.
So
If you had to choose one car, what's your favorite car gonna be?
one car, Aston Martin DB11.
DB11. That's some James Bond stuff. uh, and if you could own, if you had a choice that you can only keep one bike forever your life, except R1, which one would it be?
Hmm. Well, there are so many I cannot think, you know.
Yeah, that's why I asked you.
BMW GS.
BMW GS. Okay, and Salman, last question for you. Except the sports bike segment, which is your favorite segment?
Off-road.
Off-road.
Yeah.
Perfect. What an interview, mate. We could just continue talking about bikes, and we will in the future.
Yeah.
Guys, if you love this episode, please put a subscribe. I'm gonna put the socials of Salman in the descriptions. You can find him. Anything about the motorcycles up and coming, you can always contact him. And special thanks to MFC Media, Mr. Daniel, for providing all this beautiful scenario. You see the cameras and all that. A lot of hard work goes into these creating these podcasts. So a like, subscribe, share would mean a lot. Thank you for being here. It's your host Dipanshu Lakwan, and today we were here with Salman. Thank you, buddy.
Thank you so much.
What a pleasure.
Pleasure.